My wife mocked my job and my paycheck for years, so I quit without telling her. 3 months later, she opened the mail, and everything she thought she knew about me collapsed. Folks, Uncle Mickle here. And before you think this is some get-rich-quick fairy tale or a petty revenge story, let me stop you right there. This is about silence, patience, and what happens when someone mistakes your quiet for weakness. Before I get into this, do me a favor and drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from and what time it is right now. And if stories like mine hit you where it hurts, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Helps Uncle Mickle keep bringing you the truth nobody else wants to talk about. All right, let me take you back. 3 months before that envelope hit the kitchen table, I was sitting in my car outside our house, engine off, hands still on the steering wheel. It was late afternoon, sun low, that golden hour where everything looks peaceful, even when it's not. I remember thinking, just breathe, don't react. That became my mantra back then. I didn't always used to sit in my car like that. There was a time I couldn't wait to get home, a time when the house felt warm the moment I stepped inside. But by then, home had turned into a place where every word felt measured and every silence felt loud. The thing is, the mocking didn't start all at once. At first, it was jokes, little ones, the kind you're supposed to laugh off. You saving the world today, or just pushing papers. That's cute money. Must be nice working easy hours. Short lines, tossed out casually. Lines people repeat in the comments later. I'm just being honest. You're too sensitive. I'm joking, relax. I didn't understand it then, but those jokes were practice. Practice for something colder. See, I worked a steady job. Nothing flashy. Nothing you brag about at parties. But it paid the bills, kept food on the table, roof overhead. I took pride in that. Quiet pride. The kind men our age were raised on. But somewhere along the line, that wasn't enough for her anymore. That wasn't the worst part, though. The worst part was how comfortable she got saying those things in front of other people. Friends, family, even strangers. Like my worth had become a punchline she could pull out whenever she wanted to laugh. And every time, I did the same thing. I smiled. I stayed quiet. I changed the subject. Because men like me were taught one thing. Don't air your problems. Don't argue in public. And don't let your pride talk louder than your sense. But silence has a cost. What nobody tells you is that when you don't respond, people start filling in the blanks themselves. And most of the time, they assume you've got nothing to say because you've got nothing at all. That night, sitting in my car, I watched the lights flick on in the house. I could see her silhouette moving through the kitchen window, phone to her ear, laughing. I remember thinking, she doesn't even know. Not yet. I shut the car door, walked inside, played my part. Same routine, same quiet man she thought she had figured out. But something had already shifted. Because earlier that day, I'd made a decision. A clean one. No shouting. No threats. No speeches. Just action. And the truth is, what she thought was my lowest point was actually the moment I stopped needing her approval at all. What I did next, I didn't tell a soul. Not my friends. Not my family. And definitely not my wife. And that envelope she opened 3 months later? That wasn't an accident. It was the end of her jokes and the beginning of my freedom. You won't need this anymore. Don't worry about it. I've got it handled. She'd heard those words before. She just never understood what they meant. Back then, before everything cracked, our life looked solid from the outside. Not glamorous. Not Instagram perfect. But stable. We lived in a modest 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood where people waved, but didn't pry. Same grocery store every week. Same church on Sundays when we felt like being seen. Same diner booth on Friday mornings when our schedules lined up just right. Routine has a way of convincing you that everything's fine. I was the kind of man who believed consistency mattered more than excitement. I showed up, paid my share, fixed what broke, listened more than I spoke. I thought that was love. And for a long time, maybe it was. She used to appreciate that about me. When we first married, she'd say things like, "I feel safe with you." You're steady. You don't scare me like other men. Those words meant something to me. They still do. My job wasn't impressive, but it was honest. I worked regular hours, came home on time, and didn't bring my stress through the front door. I figured that counted for something. I figured being dependable was its own kind of success. I didn't need applause. I needed peace. In the evenings, I'd sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee while she scrolled through her phone. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. Silence wasn't uncomfortable back then. It felt earned. But slowly things shifted. Her phone stayed closer to her hand. Her laughter started coming at odd times. And her questions about my work changed tone. Not curious. Evaluative. How much did you make this month? Are you ever going to move up? Don't you want more? Those questions weren't conversations. They were verdicts waiting to be delivered. Still, I told myself it was normal. People change. Expectations grow. Maybe I'd gotten too comfortable. Maybe I needed to prove something again. That's the lie a lot of men swallow. That love is something you constantly have to re-earn. I started noticing how she talked about other people's husbands. The promotions, the bonuses, the vacations. Always framed as admiration. But it felt like comparison. Mark just bought a new truck. Jennifer and David are going to Cabo again. Must be nice. She'd say those last two words a lot. Must be nice. I didn't understand it then, but comparison is a slow poison. It doesn't kill you outright. It just weakens everything holding you upright. At home, I stayed calm. I cooked. I cleaned. I listened. At work, I kept my head down and did what I'd always done. I didn't complain. Didn't chase titles. Didn't beg for recognition. I believed effort spoke for itself. That belief would cost me more than I realized. The mocking, when it came, still wore a smile. You're too smart to be doing this forever. I just want better for us. You don't have ambition anymore. Those lines cut deeper because they sounded reasonable. And when I didn't argue back, she took that as confirmation. Silence can look like agreement to the wrong person. There was one night that stands out now. We were at a small get-together. Nothing fancy. Just neighbors and wine. Someone asked what I did for a living. Before I could answer, she laughed. Oh, he's got one of those jobs you don't explain at parties. Everyone chuckled. I smiled. But something in me went quiet in a way it hadn't before. On the drive home, she said, "You didn't have to get so serious." I remember staring at the road and thinking, that wasn't a joke. I didn't say it, though. I told myself not to overthink. Told myself marriage goes through seasons. Told myself tomorrow would feel normal again. But that night, lying awake beside her, I realized something I hadn't admitted yet. I was working just as hard as ever, and somehow becoming smaller in my own house. That was the first time I wondered if she still respected me. And once that question enters your mind, it doesn't leave quietly. I'm just trying to motivate you. You know I love you. You're reading too much into it. Those words echoed as I stared at the ceiling. And I had no idea then that the next small moment, one careless comment, would push me from doubt into decision. That came sooner than I expected. The comment came on a Tuesday. Ordinary day. Forgettable, really. Which is how moments that change everything usually arrive. I just walked in from work, shoes still on, lunch bag in hand. She was at the kitchen counter, phone propped up, tapping away like I wasn't even there. Didn't look up when I said hello. That was new. I set my bag down, reached for a glass, and that's when she sighed. Not a tired sigh. Not a frustrated one. The kind that carries judgment. You know, she said, still staring at her screen. My sister asked me today why I stay with someone so comfortable. Comfortable. That word landed heavy. I waited, gave her space to soften it, to laugh, to explain. She didn't. Instead, she added. I didn't know what to tell her. I didn't understand it then, but that pause was intentional. She wanted me to feel it. Wanted me to scramble for words, for defense, for proof. I didn't give her that. I poured my water. Took a sip. Calm. What did you say? I asked. She shrugged. Nothing. I changed the subject. Then, finally, she looked at me. Not angry. Not sad. assessing, like I was a decision she hadn't finished making. I just think, she continued, most men our age are building something bigger by now. There it was. Not an argument. A conclusion. I nodded once. Okay. That was it. She blinked, surprised. She'd expected resistance. Maybe a promise. Maybe guilt. Maybe a fight she could win. Instead, she got silence. You're not even going to say anything, she asked. I met her eyes. I heard you. That line still echoes sometimes. I heard you. She rolled her eyes. See, this is what I mean. You just accept things. That night, she went to bed early. Left her phone face down on the charger. That detail stuck with me more than it should have. I didn't sleep much. My mind kept circling the same question. When did I stop being enough without having to prove it? The next few weeks followed a pattern I couldn't ignore anymore. She started coming home later, dressing sharper, checking the mirror twice before leaving. And the comments about money? They sharpened too. Do you even know how much other people make? I don't want to struggle forever. I can't keep pretending this is okay. Pretending. As if stability was an illusion. As if effort didn't count unless it impressed someone else. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I paid attention. I noticed how she'd step out to take calls. How she'd angle her phone away from me. How she suddenly knew a lot about investment opportunities and passive income, but never asked my opinion. One evening, she laughed at something on her phone and said, almost absent-mindedly, "Some people just know how to move up." I asked who she was talking to. She waved it off. Just people from work. That wasn't the worst part, though. The worst part was how comfortable she was saying all this, while assuming I was staying exactly where I was. Same job. Same role. Same man she'd already categorized. She had no idea I'd already started asking different questions. At work, I began watching who talked less and did more. Who left early and never seemed worried. Who didn't complain about money, but never bragged either. One name kept coming up. Michael. Quiet guy. Mid-40s. No flash. No ego. We'd exchanged polite nods for years. That was it. One afternoon, as I was packing up, he stopped by my desk. "Ever thought about doing something else?" he asked. Just like that. I looked at him. Really looked this time. "What do you mean?" I said. He smiled slightly. "Not quitting life. Just shifting lanes." That sentence stuck. Shifting lanes. I didn't commit to anything that day. Didn't promise. Didn't ask too many questions. But when I drove home, I realized something unsettling. I wasn't afraid of change anymore. I was afraid of staying invisible. And that fear, that was new. "You're overthinking." "It's probably nothing." "Don't be dramatic." Those were the lies I used to calm myself. But deep down, a quieter voice had started whispering, "Something's off." And I was done ignoring it. I didn't go looking for betrayal. That's the truth. Men like me don't wake up one morning and decide to spy on their own wife. We convince ourselves there's a logical explanation for everything. Stress, work, phases. We tell ourselves loyalty is proven by trust, not suspicion. But there's a point where ignoring your instincts becomes disrespecting yourself. That point came on a Thursday evening. She was in the shower. Phone on the nightstand. Screen lit up with a notification she forgot to silence. Just a name. No message preview. David. My stomach tightened. Not because of the name itself, but because I'd never heard her mention a David from work. And I knew every name she usually talked about. Too well. I didn't touch the phone right away. I stood there longer than I should have, listening to the water run, arguing with myself like a fool. Don't be that guy. You're imagining things. Respect her privacy. Then the phone buzzed again. Same name. That's when I realized something important. Privacy isn't secrecy. And trust isn't blindness. I picked it up. The message wasn't explicit. That almost made it worse. Did you think about what I said? No context. No emojis. No jokes. Just familiarity. I scrolled. My hands were steady. My chest wasn't. Lunch plans. Compliments disguised as encouragement. Late-night check-ins. Jokes about how some people don't see your potential. There it was. My wife was being reminded daily that she deserved more, and whoever this David was, he was feeding the part of her that had already started looking down on me. I didn't understand it then, but betrayal rarely starts with sex. It starts with agreement. Agreement that someone else gets you. Agreement that your partner is holding you back. Agreement that you're entitled to something better. The shower shut off. I put the phone back exactly where it was. Walked out of the room. Sat at the kitchen table and waited for my breathing to slow. She came out humming. Didn't notice a thing. That night I barely spoke. She didn't ask why. That told me everything I needed to know about how distant we'd become. Over the next week, I noticed patterns I couldn't unsee. She stayed late on days. She wore her nicest clothes. She smiled at messages she didn't share. She talked about ambition like it was something she'd just discovered. And every time she looked at me, there was something else there now. Impatience. Like I was a chapter she was almost done reading. I didn't confront her. Still, because I wasn't ready to react. I needed clarity. The next discovery came accidentally. And that's the part people don't believe. Saturday morning, she asked me to grab a folder from the filing cabinet. Insurance paperwork. Boring stuff. I pulled the drawer too far, and a thin envelope slid out from behind it. No return address. Just her name. Inside were printed bank statements. Not ours. Not joint. A separate account. Small balances at first. Then steady transfers. Monthly. From a source I didn't recognize. My hands felt cold. I checked the dates. The deposits started right around the time the mocking began. I didn't know what to think. Affair? Loan? Gift? Then I saw the memo line. Consulting. That's when it clicked. She wasn't just emotionally checked out. She was preparing. Someone was helping her plan a life where I wasn't the foundation anymore. That realization hollowed me out in a way I can't properly describe. It wasn't anger yet. It was something quieter, heavier. I sat there a long time with those papers in my lap. This wasn't a mistake. This was strategy. And the most painful part? She thought I was too small to notice. You wouldn't understand. It's complicated. I didn't want to worry you. I could already hear the excuses she hadn't said yet. That night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling again. Same spot as before. Different man. Because now I knew. Not everything, but enough. And once you see the full shape of someone's disrespect, you can't unsee it. The question wasn't whether I'd confront her. The question was when. And more importantly, what I'd do before she ever knew I knew. There's a moment after betrayal sets in where everything goes quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Focused quiet. The kind where your emotions finally stop tripping over each other and fall into line. That's where I found myself. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. Didn't demand explanations that would only be half true anyway. Instead, I started thinking in lists. What I knew. What I didn't. What I controlled. Pain makes some people reckless. It made me precise. The first thing I did was stop reacting. Completely. If she mocked my job, I nodded. If she sighed about money, I changed the subject. I became exactly what she already thought I was, passive. That wasn't surrender. That was camouflage. At night, while she scrolled and smiled at her phone, I lay there planning. Not revenge fantasies. Logistics. Time frames. Options. I reached out to Michael. Quiet. Casual. Still thinking about shifting lanes? I asked. He didn't answer right away. When he did, it was short. Meet me Saturday. Coffee. No pressure. That line mattered. No pressure. Saturday morning, we sat at a small cafe off the highway. No suits. No pitch decks. Just two men with cups in their hands. He didn't oversell anything. Didn't promise riches. Didn't insult my current job. He just explained. Side work. Consulting. Systems most people don't understand because they don't slow down long enough to learn them. Long hours at first. Quiet wins later. I listened more than I spoke. What's the catch? I asked. He smiled. You won't see results right away. That was fine. I was already used to being underestimated. The next step was harder. I quit my job. No drama. No goodbye lunch. 2 weeks' notice. Professional as ever. I told my wife I was taking on extra projects and that my hours might shift. She barely looked up from her phone. Just don't let it affect the bills, she said. That sentence still stings. I didn't correct her, didn't explain, didn't defend myself, because this wasn't about convincing her anymore. I spent my days learning, nights building, early mornings reviewing numbers I didn't fully understand yet. There were days I doubted myself. Days I thought, what if she's right? What if I really am just behind? But every small win quieted that voice. First client, first check, first time I realized I didn't need permission to redefine my value. I opened a separate account. My name only. Everything documented. Clean. Not to hide, but to protect. At home, the mocking continued. Sometimes sharper. You look tired. Is this your midlife crisis? I hope this phase passes. I let her believe that, because while she was waiting for me to fail, I was laying groundwork. 3 months passed faster than I expected. I didn't flaunt anything. Drove the same car. Wore the same clothes. Kept the same routines. Success doesn't announce itself when it's earned quietly. One evening, she complained again about money. About how she couldn't keep living like this. I nodded. I understand, I said. That line caught her off guard. You do, she asked. Yes, I replied. I really do. She studied my face like she was trying to find the trick. There wasn't one, because the decision had already been made. Not to punish her, not to humiliate her, just to stop shrinking. I didn't know exactly how it would end yet, but I knew this. I would not beg. I would not explain. And I would not stay small so someone else could feel tall. The next move wouldn't be loud. It would be undeniable. And when it came, it would come all at once. The envelope arrived on a Wednesday. Plain. White. Thick enough to matter. I wasn't home when she opened it. That part was intentional. I knew exactly when the bank statements would land. I timed everything down to the week. Not to be cruel, to be precise. I came home late that evening. The house was silent. Too silent. Lights on. TV off. She was sitting at the kitchen table, envelope torn open in front of her, paper spread out like evidence at a trial. She didn't look up when I walked in. I set my keys down slowly, hung my jacket, took a breath. Then she spoke. What is this? No anger. No sarcasm. Confusion. I walked over, glanced at the statements like I hadn't seen them 100 times already. Looks like bank mail, I said. She finally looked at me. Her face had drained of color. This account, she said, tapping the page, has more money in it than we've ever had. What is this? I pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. Calm. Steady. I quit my job 3 months ago. Her mouth opened. Closed. No sound. You did what? She whispered. I quit. I repeated. Started something new. Her eyes scanned the pages again. Balances. Deposits. Growth. This isn't possible, she said. You never said. I know. Silence stretched between us. Then the questions came fast. How long? With who? Why didn't you tell me? I answered only what mattered. Long enough. Legally. Because you never asked. That one landed. She pushed the papers away like they burned. So what, this is some kind of trick, she snapped. You trying to prove something? I met her eyes. No, I already did. Her voice shook. I was worried about us. I nodded once. So was I. She stood up, pacing now. You let me think you were failing, she said. You just let me say all those things. Yes. Why? Because this was the moment. Because I needed to know, I said evenly, who you were when you thought I had nothing to offer. She stopped moving. I continued, slower now. You mocked me, compared me, talked down to me, and all the while, you were building your own exit plan. Her head snapped up. What are you talking about? I reached into my bag and set the copies on the table. Her account, her deposits, the dates. She stared at them. Then she sat down hard. You went through my things, she said weakly. No, I replied. You left them behind. She covered her mouth. Tears welled, but they didn't move me. David, I asked quietly. Her shoulders dropped. That was all the answer I needed. I never touched him, she said quickly. It wasn't like that. It doesn't have to be, I said. You already left. The room felt smaller now. She reached for my hand. I pulled it back. That hurt her more than anything I'd said. You didn't believe in me, I said. But worse, you bet against me. She cried then. Hard. Loud. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't insult her. Didn't smile. I just stood up. I'm not here to fight, I said. I'm here to finish this with dignity. What does that mean? She asked through tears. It means I'm done being the punchline, I said. And I'm done being your safety net while you look for something better. I picked up my keys. You can keep the house for now, I added. We'll sort things out properly. She looked up at me, terrified. You're just leaving? I paused at the door. No, I said. I left months ago. You just noticed today. And I walked out. That was the loudest silence of my life. The days after I left didn't feel dramatic. They felt empty. Not the kind of empty that scares you. The kind that finally gives you room to breathe. I stayed with a friend at first. Nothing fancy. Spare room. Fold-out desk. Quiet mornings. For the first time in years, no one judging how early I woke up or how late I worked. I slept better than I expected. Not because it didn't hurt, it did. But because my mind wasn't bracing for the next comment, the next comparison, the next reminder that I was supposedly falling behind. The call started on day 2. Missed calls at first. Then messages. I didn't mean it like that. We can fix this. You blindsided me. That last one almost made me laugh. I didn't respond right away. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. When emotions are raw, people say things they think will rewind time. Time doesn't rewind. Eventually we talked. Short conversations. Practical ones. Logistics. No late-night emotional bargaining. She cried. I listened. She apologized. I accepted the apology, not the behavior. That distinction matters. The truth came out in pieces. David was a co-worker. Divorced. Ambitious. Always talking about growth and next levels. He listened to her frustrations. Validated them. Encouraged her to want more. He didn't steal her from me. He met her where she already was. Once you understand that, the anger fades faster. We filed paperwork. Clean. Respectful. No lawyers circling like vultures. Just 2 adults acknowledging something had ended long before the paperwork began. She asked me once, if you'd told me what you were building, would things have been different? I thought about it. Maybe, I said. But then I'd still be proving myself to someone who should have believed in me already. That answer ended the conversation. Work took off in a way I hadn't expected. Not overnight riches, just momentum. Consistent growth. Clients referring clients. Quiet confidence replacing old doubt. I moved into my own place. Small. Clean. Mine. I kept my routines. Morning coffee. Evening walks. Same car. Same clothes. The difference was internal. I wasn't performing stability anymore. I was living it. Sometimes, late at night, the memories still surface. The laughter. The early years. The version of us that believed we were building something together. I don't pretend it didn't matter. It did. But so did the lessons. You can love someone and still outgrow the role they assign you. You can stay quiet and still be strong. And you can walk away without destroying everything to prove your point. The last time I saw her, she looked smaller somehow. Not weaker, just uncertain. She asked if I was happy. I didn't rush the answer. I'm at peace, I said. And I meant it. Because peace isn't the absence of pain. It's the absence of pretending. I didn't win anything in the way movies talk about winning. No speeches. No public humiliation. No applause. Just dignity. And that turned out to be enough. More than enough. There was only one thing left to do. Tell the story. Because someone listening right now needs to hear what I learned the hard way. If you've listened this far, then you already know. This story was never really about money. It was about respect. It was about what happens when someone confuses your quiet nature with weakness and mistakes your patience for permission. For a long time, I thought love meant absorbing discomfort so the other person could feel secure. I thought being a good man meant staying steady while someone else kept moving the goalposts. I didn't understand it then, but love without respect turns into a slow erosion. You don't notice it day by day. You notice it when you finally stand up straight and realize how small you've been made to feel. Here's the truth most people don't want to say out loud. If someone only believes in you after you succeed, they never believed in you. They believed in the results. And that's not partnership. That's convenience. You don't owe anyone proof of your worth. You don't owe explanations to people who've already made up their minds. And you don't have to announce your growth for it to be real. Sometimes the strongest move a man can make is to get quiet, get focused, and let time do the talking. So if you're sitting there right now, feeling underestimated, unheard, or slowly mocked into self-doubt, hear this clearly. You're not behind. You're not invisible. And you're not required to stay small to keep someone else comfortable. So that's my story, folks. If it resonated with you, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I want to know how far Uncle Mickle's voice travels. And remember this, respect is the foundation everything else is built on. Without it, nothing lasts.